Hey guys, Mustang here, bringing another Dragon Ball Z Dokkan battle video, and so today we're going to be doing the team building guide for the EZA for the Broly, CHEELAI and LEMO LR, aka the LR Broly trio. These guys make a great addition to the Super Bosses team. The EZA comes out tomorrow, so this video will be going up at 6 p.m. UK time. If you're watching this as soon as it comes out, the event will be out in 13.5 hours. Basically just the normal time that events come out on Global. I will be live, as always, for the early streams. We go live about half an hour before the content comes out. So do come by the early stream and check it out. Tons of stuff is coming out tomorrow. Not just the EZA, but there's loads of new stages, new events, more awakenings for the free-to-play characters. Tons of stuff going on tomorrow. So do come check it out live. But we'll be doing the team building guide here. I'm not going to go over huge detail of what these guys do. Obviously, the info's all up on the screen if you want to pause it and read it now if you don't know what they do. But of course, with the EZA coming out tomorrow, I will be doing a full showcase where we break down everything and use them in some events. So this is the actual event itself. It is, of course, a 10-stage EZA because it's for an LR. So you get 3 stones for beating each stage, 30 stones once you've completed all 10. And then, as always with LR EZAs, they just have the one mission, which is to beat stage 7, which gives you 3 stones. So by the time you've beat all 10 stages, you get 33 stones. Any further you go past 10, you just get the Hercule statues. I think the LR EZA ones are, if you're someone who does farm EZAs a little bit extra for Zenny, like the LR ones are usually not as good. They get a bit tougher towards the end, but like it's easier to farm a lot of the easy TUR ones rather than picking out the LR ones. However, this one should be a lot easier than some of the ones that we have seen, because the special weakness category for this one is movie heroes, which, as we know, movie heroes is a category that's been buffed a lot throughout the couple of years since it first released into the game. Lots of good units on here, and of course, being an LR EZA, the legendary power link will enable you to do more damage to the boss. So the more LRs you have, the easier this event will be. Don't worry if your movie heroes box isn't that extensive though. I've said this before for LR EZAs. I'll probably mention it in every LR EZA team building guide, to be fair. If you're someone who's watched all of them, you'll have heard me say this every time. But you can beat these LR EZAs with a full team of TURs. I've done it before. It just takes longer because you don't do the extra damage. But if you have a good enough team, especially defensively, then it's still perfectly fine. It just takes you a little bit longer to do the stage. So we're going to take a look at the movie heroes category. It is a pretty big category. As always with my team building guides, we're going to go over my top picks and honorable mentions for making the best team to beat the event as easily as possible. So if you do find the video helpful at all, do hit that like button, and of course if you are new around here, do subscribe to the channel. We just got to 28k subs the other day, and we are pushing, the big goal now is 30k, so the closest we can get to that by the end of the anniversary would be awesome. So we are going to go ahead and jump straight in. Now, it's unsurprising, of course, with these EZAs, they very often do this in big celebrations where the new unit is going to be very effective for these big EZAs. And so, of course, the LR Gogeta is the Carnival LR 200% lead for movie heroes. So if you do have the LR Gogeta, if you did summon and you did pull him, then he's probably the best leader for the team. I mean, he straight up is the best leader for the team, right? Because it's full 200% to everyone on the team. You don't have to worry about the characters that do have the 200% leads, whether every single person on the team fits under the full 200 or anything like that. Everyone will be getting the full 200% leader skill if you use a Gogeta. And so regardless of who you do end up using as your leader, especially if you don't have Gogeta yourself, he is going to be the best friend leader to bring, for sure. So we all know, I guess at this point, what he does, right? We've been talking non-stop about him for the last week or so, or even longer, to be fair, but since he came out on Global. But he's effective against all types, so it doesn't matter that the boss is type neutral. Gets decent stats on super guards for the first 3 turns, then you can transform, creates rainbow orbs, does multiple additional supers, gets one guaranteed as long as you get a rainbow orb. And so with this guy, with EZAs not being the longest events, right, even the later stages, you're probably only going to be getting to like sort of like turn 4, maybe 5 at the latest. You can, of course, use the strategy for floating this guy off straight away on the first turn. Then he comes back on turn 4, and you can transform into blue straight away. Get a bit of a heal, which is always nice for Easy A's because you can't use items. And then obviously all of his stats are boosted. He has a 70% chance to dodge, multiple super attacks, and you know, chances are you'll transform into blue and then probably finish off the fight that turn, especially if you do have some LRs and you have that legendary power link active. You're probably not going to get to see the active skill because it's starting from the next turn. So the earliest you can ever use his active skill is turn 6. Because if you get him on turn 1, float him off, transform him turn 4, and then active skill turn 6, probably unlikely you're going to get to turn 6 with this guy in like a Easy A setting. But he obviously is very powerful, very good link set, and definitely the best leader for the team. Then we have these guys. They're pretty old now, the AGL Super Saiyans from the Cooler movie, but they lead movie heroes for 170, and then Pure Saiyans get the extra 30%. So unfortunately, any of the like fusions, like the Piccolo that we'll talk about as well, like they won't get the full 200, but these guys can still be an alright addition to the team. They are raising defense on their supers. They can get a bunch of additional supers. They have damage reduction. These guys kind of fell off in like really difficult content, but in something like this, as long as you're not putting them in slot 1, in an event where you do want a bunch of LRs, these guys can definitely be effective, do a nice little bit of extra damage. And even if you just end up using them as like they're the final unit you picked for your team and they just end up being a floater, they're going to be helping to provide that legendary power link to the rest of the team. But in this event specifically, they could definitely still do fairly well. So they're worth considering. Of course, we have the Tech LR Gods who lead movie heroes and then have Kamehamehas, the extra 30%. These guys will still be very useful in events like this. Again, not really for slot 1, but like they guard all the attacks on the first turn. They're stacking. If you get enough key, they can get the extra super. They get attacks effective against all types if you do get 24 key. So they can do a decent bit of damage, and then they can transform on turn 4 into blue. And then the more rainbow orbs you pick up, the more dodge chance they have. So they can still be pretty effective, again, just like the AGL Super Saiyan duo. In this kind of event that doesn't have the extreme level of difficulty, and an event where you want LRs, these guys can still be very, very good. And I know they were a lot of people's first big like movie heroes leads. These guys will still be useful in this event. Then we have the STR Gogeta. Now, this guy is, in terms of leader skill, you probably can make a full movie heroes team out of Final Trump Card or Fusion, but he's more so here to be a powerful unit on the team. He has type advantage. I mean, he has attacks effective against all types, I think once he's transformed, but he's got type advantage, so you don't have to worry too much about him taking damage. You can obviously float him off in slot 3 where he gets the extra dodge chance, and then when he comes back he transforms into blue and has a 100% chance to dodge. A lot of the units on this team get like super powered on turn 4, so I can imagine in the later stages a lot of these are just going to go to turn 4, and then you're going to have multiple units transforming or doing other things, and then you just kind of blitz the rest of the boss's HP on stage 4. But this guy obviously very, very good for that. Links very well with the Carnival LR Gogeta, so if you're running him as the leader, or like I say, even if you don't have him yourself, running him as the friend, this guy will fit very, very nicely on the team, and the two of them together will be able to do a lot of damage in one turn. Both of them are LRs, so of course they satisfy that need for the legendary power link just by being together. So this guy is probably a must include on the movie heroes team for this event specifically. Very, very strong. Obviously, if he does transform into blue, guaranteed dodge on the first turn, bunch of additional attacks. Very, very strong for this event. So next up we have the physical Ultimate Gohan, the living meme that will never die, least Gohan, whatever you want to call him, right? But for this event, he could be decent. Superheroes or Hybrid Saiyans, not the best leader for the team. Movie Heroes is one of his plus 30%, although we are going to talk about some Superheroes characters. And there are some other Hybrid Saiyans that could potentially make a team build for him for a full Movie Heroes team. But he himself on a Movie Heroes team can certainly be very good, as long as you have another Bond of Parent and Child category ally on the team, which as long as you have any of the like Goku and Vegeta cards and stuff like that, you'll be able to fulfill that condition. You get guard for the first couple of turns. As long as you're getting enough key, he can do the extra attacks. He can be attacks effective against all types if you get to 24 key. He can be pretty decent on the team. He kind of doesn't fit super well with a lot of the other units because of his links, which has always been an issue when since he first released. But of course, one of the things you can do, which will work quite nicely, is you can also run the Tech LR Piccolo, and you can run them together. Piccolo in slot 1. Very good slot 1 unit, especially in these events, like very early on in the first couple of turns. Gets hit, gives everybody 2 extra ki, which is really helpful for Gohan as well. This guy, if there's a couple of attacks in slot 1 and he gets hit a few times before he attacks, can still hit really hard even on the first turn. So the combo of Piccolo and Gohan, really, really good. I mean, Piccolo's still worth using on the team regardless. But yeah, very, very strong combo, and Piccolo himself still very, very good for events like this. So those two definitely worth considering. And then next up, we also have the Dragon Fist Goku. So he got his EZA a little while ago now on Global. Not like a crazy impressive unit when it comes to the hardest content in the game, but for something like this, he can definitely be very useful. As long as you're not doing the 18 ki super, he has a lot of damage reduction. You can build him up over the first couple of turns, and then when you're getting to the point where you know it's going to be like the final turn based on the boss's HP, you can go for that big 18 ki super, which does a lot of damage, has an action break the first time only, and will be very, very effective at ending the fight if you're using this guy. And even though we don't have a lot of other Super Saiyan 3s, because we have some of the Gogetas and stuff, we'll have links like Over in a Flash for the ki. So this guy fits very nicely onto the team. Can be strong defensively early on, and then do a big damage finisher for you as well as just being another unit that provides that legendary power link. Because if you get a weird starting rotation, this is the thing, right? You can throw some TURs into the mix with your LRs. You just got to remember, the more TURs you have on the team, the more likely you are to get a rotation where you have 1 LR and 2 TURs, and then that means you don't get legendary power active. So you do want to try and run as many LRs as possible. That being said, we will now touch on some honorable mentions for TURs. The Tech God Goku, obviously we're fighting a movie boss's enemy, so this guy can be a really, really good slot 1 tank for the team. He has Over in a Flash and Prepared for Battle, so he can go in slot 1, and most of the other characters that we've talked about are going to share at least 1 ki link with him, so he can be a very, very good linchpin for the team. And it means you can put him in slot 1, have an LR next to him in slot 2, have a bunch of LRs floating, and then that means the units in slot 2 and 3 are still going to be getting that legendary power link. So he's definitely a very good addition for the team as a strong defensive anchor. Then we also have the STR Dragon Fist Super Saiyan 3 Goku. Now, he has the same name as the LR, so you can't use both on the same team. Honestly, this guy, at least in the earlier turns, because if with the Tech one, if you're trying to just get the 12 ki to build him up, in the earlier turns, this guy can actually hit harder than him. Although I suppose in this event, with legendary power for the extra damage, it probably doesn't quite work out to be hitting as hard. So it probably depends. Out of the two, I would say whichever one you have the most dupes. Like if you have the LR already with dupes and like link level 10, whereas maybe you pulled like 1 copy of this guy because he hasn't returned on Global yet. So then the Tech one would obviously be better to use. You can use the standby if you're on low HP, or it's 70% or less, which isn't even really that low. You can use the standby on turn 3 and then get the super counter with the Dragon Fist, which could definitely be very effective. It is very RNG, of course. You can always use the standby and there is no super on the turn. So all in all, I think the Tech LR is better just for having more LRs on the team. Although overall, I would say this guy probably is actually better. Like if we're just rating them for difficult content, I think this guy's probably better than the LR. But for this event specifically, the LR is probably better. But if you don't have them, or you just have the LR at like 55% or something, this guy could still be a very, very good option for the team. Then we have the Gamma 1 and Gamma 2. We might as well mention them at the same time. Gamma 1 obviously has type advantage and is providing all allies with defensive support. So he can be really good on the team even just by himself. Obviously he won't have a ton of his links active, but he can be useful to be there just for the support. He has guard for the first few turns. I mean, he's got type advantage anyway, but he builds up as he gets hit. He can be very good. And then, of course, Gamma 2, he's the one you probably wouldn't run him on his own. But if you are running Gamma 1, you could run the two of them together. They're going to have all their links. This guy can get multiple additional attacks and can build up a pretty decent amount of crit chance. It does mean if you're running them as a rotation, you are obviously locking yourself out of the ability to get legendary power on that rotation, because if you have an LR float into slot 3, they're the only LR on the turn. But depending on your options, especially as we mentioned with like the Gohan or the Piccolo, where you can run like a superhero team build, then obviously you could have these guys as a rotation on that team, or even just have like one of them floating, have the Gamma 2 floating, have Gamma 1 on one of the rotations there for support. But yeah, even though they're not LRs, these guys could work really well together as a combo, especially in the earlier stages. It doesn't really matter too much about having a full LR team, and Gamma 2 has the potential to do a lot of damage when linked up with Gamma 1. Then we have this STR Piccolo. He's a support unit. He gets buffs for there being extra movie heroes allies on the turn, so obviously perfect for a full movie heroes team. He gives extra attack to the superclass allies when there's an extreme enemy, which there is. So he can be very, very good in this event. He is obviously the normal named Piccolo, so he can link up with the LR. He can be really good for floating, because you can have like a different LR in slot 1, Piccolo in slot 2, this guy slot 3. So Piccolo will have his legendary power as well as all the links from this STR Piccolo. So even without the LR Piccolo on the team, this guy's really, really good for supporting the rest of the team. He's got type advantage, so you don't have to worry too much about him getting killed. On the full movie heroes rotation, he has the damage reduction and everything. So this guy definitely an honorable mention. Even if you're just running 2 rotations of like, you know, your LR Gogeta and the STR Gogeta, friend LR Gogeta, and then another LR. This guy on the team floating to give extra support to those LRs that already have legendary power active is going to be very effective. Then we have the Bardock and Guinea. Now these guys, obviously their sub EZA drops at the exact same time that the Broly Trio EZA comes out. As I've already mentioned a few times, you can pre-farm the medals for these guys. They use the Master Saiyan EZA medals. So if you've got nothing to do, if you're watching this video now and you still haven't done it, and you've got nothing to do with your stamina, you can farm those medals now. And then as soon as the EZAs come out in the morning tomorrow, you can EZA these guys, and then they can be useful on the team. They're massively raising attack and defense on their super. They raise all allies attack and defense for 2 turns, so they support the next rotation as well. They get buffs as long as you have a bond of parent and child ally in the turn, which is very easy. If there's a movie boss's enemy, which there is, they get extra attack as well. So these guys can be pretty useful on the team. And then you can use their active skill. If you've lost a little bit of HP, you can use their active skill on turn 4, which gives everybody a nice big multiplicative attack buff. So as I mentioned earlier, there's a lot of units on this team that can really like pop off on turn 4 with transformations and abilities and stuff like that. And these guys are definitely useful for that as well. Then we have the God Goku. I should have moved this guy up a little bit earlier. I mentioned him a bit earlier because he's obviously still a very good unit. 6 orbs to get the guard. 3 orbs gives you a 60% dodge chance. He can be very good here. He can be a really good stand-in leader if you're only running pure Saiyans or hybrid Saiyans, although it does mean that leader skill doesn't cover Gogeta, who, as I mentioned, you do ideally want to run as a friend if you can. But this guy will still be very, very good on the team. Of course, you can't run him and the Tech God Goku at the same time, but they do serve very different roles. That Tech God Goku is there to be a defensive wall, and then this guy is, you're relying on the dodge, but he can do some very decent damage. So it depends which one you would prefer to use. Neither of them are LRs, so if you're going for as many LRs as possible, you're not really focusing on the God Goku, but the physical one can be very, very strong as well. And then last but not least, the physical Path to Power Kid Goku. This guy is another one of these units that's starting to age pretty badly for the difficult content in the game. But in a thing like this, where you're floating him in slot 3, maybe you've got your 2 main rotations as 2 LRs, and then you get 7 orbs for this guy, and everybody has the extra damage reduction. And he can still hit reasonably hard as well. So he can be a nice little addition, more so as a support to give everybody that damage reduction. If you're struggling with the later stages, that little bit of extra damage reduction could be the difference for actually beating the stage. So he gets to be an honorable mention here for sure. Now, if we look back at the list very quickly, obviously AGL Gogeta is a bit outdated. I haven't mentioned any int units because obviously they have type disadvantage. I mean, like the LR Super Saiyan trio could still be really good, especially if they're getting multiple additionals and crits and stuff. But like I say, I didn't mention any type disadvantage LRs. Tech Birdku could still be relatively decent because again, it's not a super difficult, like extreme level difficulty event, and the revive could definitely come in handy as well. So he could potentially be an honourable mention. Piccolo for the Ghost Usher ability, although that's not usable until later into the fight. But the orb changing and the bit of support, definitely very helpful. That Tech Vegeta can be a decent support unit, although he has to get hit a few times. Tapion is actually a good movie hero support. I forgot about him. With the rainbow orbs and everything, he can be very solid. I guess Yamcha, if you're running the Path to Power Kid Goku, I forgot he's actually a movie heroes character. God Vegeta, unfortunately, not a great EZA, but I suppose in this particular event against the movie boss, he could be somewhat useful. The login Gogeta is on here as well, funnily enough, who gets his EZA today. Not the best unit, but if you're struggling for the final pick for the team, he could go on there and have some links with the LR Gogetas, I guess. But there you go. So that's movie heroes. Those are the top picks and honorable mentions. Let me know what you guys think down below in the comment section. Like I said at the beginning of the video, if there's any units you think I missed or should have talked more about, do let me know down below. And of course, let me know what your team build is going to be for the Broly, CHEELAI and LEMO Extreme Z battle. So as I said at the beginning, I will be live tomorrow to do this EZA on stream when it comes out. So hopefully I will see you guys there. So that is going to be it for the video, guys. This has been the Masked Ningen. Smash that like button, subscribe to the channel if you are new. Check out the links down below, and I will see you all again soon. Have a good one.